I hesitated to review the OnePlus 8 on embargo because it just did not feel finished. If you watch my comparison against the 8 Pro, the camera was not even living up to the 7T. But, you know, good things come to those who wait. After that video was done, we received the software update fixing camera issues, and then another software update right after our comparison against the iPhone 11, and then a couple of days ago, we received another. So now that I've spent a little more than a week testing more of the final product that you'll receive on retail, I'm Jaime Rivera with Pocketnow, and it's time for our full review of the OnePlus 8. For those of you that are new to OnePlus, I'd like to call this one of the brands that's responsible for less expensive iPhones. And you can fight me on that premise all you want, but come on. Apple announced their iPhone SE the day after the OnePlus 8 became official. And listen, it makes sense. OnePlus has been taking over the market with their less expensive phones with flagship specifications. And after 2 US launches plus an extra carrier deal, what do you think was going to happen? The question is, should you care? Even if brands are noticing, in the past recommending OnePlus phones was easy because of the price gap, where the OnePlus 8 sees the most substantial price difference when compared to its predecessor at $100. And sure, at $699 you can buy an iPhone 11, you can buy a Galaxy S10, but I do believe that you should care because once you look into the value proposition of what this phone is offering, you'll notice that there are actually substantial differences. Let me start this video by telling you what I like the most about this phone, and it starts with those details. Visually, you'd say there's really not much different, but I disagree. Some of my favorite devices of 2019 were the Galaxy S10 and Galaxy Note 10, and it's as if OnePlus used them as inspiration. If you see it from the front with the screen off, you'd swear it's the S10. And the smudge-heavy compact disc look of the Note 10 can be seen in this interstellar glow back. Now, honestly, for me, the S10 was more about how impossibly light it felt for being such a large phone, and that permeates to the OnePlus 8. Somehow, this phone is about the same height of the 7T, but is 2mm narrower and a hair thinner, and all while being 10 grams lighter, and that's also including a battery that's 12% larger. I mean, if we're gonna talk efficiency, let's focus on the major reason for the price hike. The OnePlus 8 should not be compared against anything else because this is a 5G phone. And sure, I know that a lot of us reviewers like to downplay 5G because of its current importance, but that's not going to last long, and I know that a lot of you don't upgrade your phones every year. So if you're given the option between upgrading to last year's technology versus upgrading to the future, I think for the same $699, the OnePlus 8 becomes a far better value proposition. This phone is capable of sub-6 on T-Mobile and is also the smallest phone that I know of that's capable of millimeter wave on Verizon with a couple of design differences. Call 5G overkill all you want, but trust me, you'll thank me later. Another value benefit of going OnePlus is that the rest of the internals are hardware that's hard to compete with. We have the latest Qualcomm Snapdragon 865, enough of the fastest flavor of RAM and storage in the industry, the latest Wi-Fi and Bluetooth standards, dual SIM capabilities if you go unlocked, and a wired charging technology that'll take you from 0 to 50% in 22 minutes that's included in the box. Flip this phone to the front, and can I just say that this is the first time that I've truly loved the OnePlus display. In the past, they were good, but not great. Either too dim or the colors were just not right. Obviously, if you want to go Quad HD or 120Hz, you'll have to go for the Pro variant, but the Full HD Plus and 90Hz won't be easy to find at this price range. At 6.55 inches diagonal and 20:9 aspect ratio, this Fluid AMOLED allows a nearly identical footprint to the 7T, but then pushes screen-to-body ratio a bit further to create a bezel-less impression. I know some won't be fans of the curves, but because this phone is not what I'd call too large to hold, I haven't had much of a need for palm rejection techniques. Colors are vibrant, it pushes beyond 1000 nits so you'll be fine in direct sunlight, and content consumption is fantastic thanks to dual firing speakers.
So in a sense it is a return, but it's more like...
Last but not least, there's the software powering the show. Android is plagued with a cliche that stock Android is better than anything else, which I wish were reflected in the sales figures of the Google Pixel. Oxygen OS is what I'd like to call more than stock because it shares the visual elements, but adding a ton of useful features. The first thing you'll notice is how fluid it is, which is a blend of the company's legacy approach and the 90Hz refresh rate in action, so long as you choose to enable it, because yeah, this user interface is about choices. If you like the new Android gestures, they're here. If you'd prefer the old 3-button navigations, they're also here. If you like the Google Assistant, it's here natively, but you can also choose to use Amazon's Assistant for a blend of both, where you can set one to the gesture and the other to the power button. Want gestures to launch specific applications or control your music while the screen is off? That's also here. Want facial recognition or a fingerprint scanner on the display, or both? Yeah, they're also here. And I now love how notifications are only visible in the lock screen if your face is detected, so long as you choose that. Those fans of the 3-way mute slider can even pick what each of these modes does to tailor more specific behaviors. And then there are the added perks that are unique to OnePlus, like Zen mode to keep you off your phone for a bit, gaming features for those of you that don't want to be interrupted and want to boost performance, and my favorite, reading mode, which is self-explanatory. I'd like to call Oxygen OS the most complete and thought-out version of what Android should be and how it should behave. And not just for its user interface, but also because of its endurance. Generation after generation, we continue to praise OnePlus for its battery performance, and this phone, regardless of being the smaller variant when compared to the 8 Pro, provides just as good battery performance. So for those of you that were worried about size differences, don't. This phone is just as good. By now, I'm sure you're asking yourself, what's the catch? And of course there is. There's no such thing as a perfect phone, and corners have to be cut to make this an affordable 5G phone. Let me begin with the reasons I'm mixed about this phone, and it starts with water resistance, but there's a huge asterisk here, as this is the unlocked variant, so I know that there is no IP rating, meaning the most I can tell you is that it's splash-proof, which is the usual OnePlus jargon. But then if you dig into the specifications of the carrier variants, meaning T-Mobile and Verizon, those phones appear to be IP68, and I already confirmed with OnePlus, it is an IP68 rated phone, so if you're interested in a certification, you will have to go for a carrier variant. Second is wireless charging. At a time when even the $399 iPhone SE includes the feature, it is really hard to justify why this phone does not offer it. And even if the company were to not give us the Warp Charge version, any sort of wireless charging would have been welcome for this price tag. Third is camera performance. If you watch the progression of how this set of cameras has behaved between my last 2 comparisons, you'll understand why I decided to delay this review. It first started as being okay for the price, to good enough to compete with the iPhone 11 in certain elements, to okay fine, I'm starting to like it. My biggest complaint is all the promise on the spec sheet. You'll hear numbers like 48 megapixels on the primary with a crop approach for 2x telephoto, a 16 megapixel ultra wide, and a 2 megapixel macro, and you're like, wow, it's gotta be great. But in real world performance, it's more of an A-, which is far better than the B that I would have given it weeks ago. During the day, you'll notice far more consistency than on my first couple of videos. Colors are not as warm as your typical iPhone, but I'd like to call these more consistent to what my eye is seeing on this hazy day. And of course, having an ultra-wide is always an added bonus for more epic shots, and I actually like to call this 2x digital crop from the primary to be good enough for lossless street photography, at least during the day. Just do yourself a favor and don't try zooming in any further, as results start getting choppy and washed out. Sadly, the claims of a triple camera system are to laugh about with this macro. It's not the same to add macro capabilities to a standard lens like on the 7T than to pretend that you'll get decent results from a 2 megapixel shooter. There is no detail, colors are washed out, like absolutely everything about it is just unusable, and this motto of overpromising and under-delivering extends to other features. For example, let's talk Nightscape. This phone claims to have night capabilities from the ultra-wide, which is not even available on the iPhone 11 Pro, but the results are no better than if you didn't use it at all. Why offer something you won't do well? Like, seriously. Just stick to the primary camera. You'll like the results, they're more detailed, even if colors are a tad cool for my taste. Oddly, I prefer the portrait photos from this phone over the Pro because I find them to be more natural, where the 8 is so basic that it actually passes as something a real camera would do. But then what I'm sadly not a fan of are selfies and selfie portraits. Once again, it makes me wonder why this company claims so many megapixels from the sensor if the results are so washed out. I mean, dynamic range is fairly decent, but the lack of detail just gets to me. And then when we jump to video, I'd give this phone more of a B-. Or worse if it wasn't for the fact that most Android phones will perform nearly the same. This phone is capable of 4K at 60 frames per second from the primary camera with some very good stabilization, but it comes at a cost. See, Android can't seem to shake off the warping and moire produced by the codec, and this phone is no exception. You can switch focal lengths and dynamic range is fairly decent, but nothing that I would trust to use in any of my videos as a B camera. And then it's just unfortunate that OnePlus phones still cannot provide selfie video at 4K resolution. The chip supports it, and the megapixels are here, and yet we get washed out results matched with a crop that almost seems like if they just ported the feature from the OnePlus 6 and never really improved the code in any way. To conclude, let me just say that I'm really happy I decided to take my time with this review. I really wanted to love this phone because there are so few 5G options in this footprint, but I was just so underwhelmed in the first few days. And I'm just really happy that software updates have changed the story. It now is more cohesive. The OnePlus 8 is no flagship phone. There's the OnePlus 8 Pro for that, and obviously a price tag to match. Now, the OnePlus 8 speaks more to the mainstream consumer that's looking for a phone that's good for the price, or as we'd like to call, a flagship killer. Those debating that it's priced like, say, the iPhone 11 just have it all wrong. You really have to stop living in the past. Every 2020 flagship has 5G, and the reason why the OnePlus 8 matters is because this is a future-proof phone for those same $699. The OnePlus 8 has proven to not just be a great smartphone for the present, but also a good investment for the future. The start was a bit rocky, but if 3 software updates in less than a month are any indication, it's only proof that OnePlus is really investing in improving this product for the long run. I have no problem in recommending it as one of the best 5G solutions for those of you looking for an inexpensive way to jump on board. Just keep in mind that the camera is still not amazing. Let us know what you think about the OnePlus 8 in the comments down below. Would you pick this phone over the OnePlus 8 Pro, or is there any other flagship 5G phone out there that you're looking at? While you're at it, follow us on social media and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. Also follow me on my personal handles to see me test phones in the same apartment building, because that's the smart thing to do. Please give this video a thumbs up if you like what you saw. I'm Jaime Rivera. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.